Yo yo, and welcome to the second episode of Lit Film Fest Classrooms this week, a series where I teach you how to make a feature-length film in 7 weeks, but you know all that, of course you do, we're near in the end.
Okay, I found this on the web for Hey Series, where I teach you how to make a feature-length film in 7 weeks. Check it out.
Listen to Siri, he knows what he's talking about. Siri, shut up. Ah, too much technology. Okay, today you're going to be writing up your notes that you wrote yesterday in yesterday's session. To write up your flashback. Going back in the past. Ooh, explaining what a flashback is. Ooh. Now, a flashback is all about going back in time. It shows an earlier part of the story that the director or the writer has chosen not to include earlier in the story. And this is often used to explain a key part, or sometimes you can even have a flashback quite early on in the story just to hook the reader in and get them engaged, but not give away the whole plot. But we're going to use it here to explain the key part of the story and the key twist in your story. And the type of sentence is a really easy type of sentence, but it has a big impact. That I'm going to teach you today is short sentences. So short sentences are roughly between 1 to 4 words, can be extra powerful. They're even more powerful when they're grouped together. So our example on the board there, victory was theirs. He packed his bag. He set off. She hid. He turned around. She prayed. And this adds a ton of tension to the story, and it also explains action sequences quite clearly, because there's a lot of moving pieces and parts in action sequences. So if you keep your language quite simple, it means that actually you can write it very clearly. So one thing I'd like you to try today is to write 4 or 5 sentences. This can be one of your paragraphs today of just short sentences. Yes, I hear you say, that's easy to write. It is, but it's also super fun. Welcome to the super fun land of writing. And let's just think back to our example that we saw in the Dorado book. Can you see any good verbs that really jump out at you? You can add an adverb in this as well, something that adds a bit to that verb. So she walked quickly. Quickly would be the adverb there because it tells us how she walked. She walked quickly. That's still a short sentence, isn't it? But it has a big impact. What other adverbs can you think of or can you find in the dictionary that would really make your writing come to life? So your challenge for today is to write up the flashback to your story which reveals the story behind the secret. Can you include as many or your favourite sentence types that we've learnt so far in Lit Film Fest Classrooms? Can you do it? No? Can you do a few? Oh, go on. Go on, do a few. It'd be better. If you do. Yeah, thanks. So we've got short sentences that obviously you have to get into today's lesson, but are you going to pick the position, place, subject, action sentence at the top of the tree, comma, the monkey sat and ate his banana? You don't have to write about monkeys today, but it might be useful in your story. Or are you going to include a 2A sentence? He's a funny, comma, kind-hearted boy with a fearless, comma, determined nature. You could use a D:D sentence, a description detail sentence. It gives us a description about what they're doing or who they are, and then gives us a bit more detail about how they do that, or explains a bit more about them. Are you going to be using a noun plus who, which, where sentence? Also known as a relative pronoun to you fuddy-duddies out there. Clegg, comma, who was a famous English explorer, there's a little cheeky relative clause, received a letter from Christopher Columbus. That's a lovely one. Or the if-then sentence is a fantastic one. You don't see this being used a lot either, so it's a lovely one to have. If it hadn't rained, comma, then the journey would have been more enjoyable. And if you really want to go to town on it, use 3 ifs in a sentence. If it hadn't poured with tropical rain, comma, if Tim hadn't been violently sick on the plane, comma, which is a true story. Never be sick on the plane. If we hadn't been kidnapped, comma, then I'm sure we would have all been much happier. Are you going to include the elusive 3-ED sentences? Tired, famished, drained, comma, I lay down on the ship's deck. Or how about my personal favourite, emotion, comma sentences? Desperate, comma, she pushed through the reeds at the edge of the Amazon. Don't forget that you'll be wanting to write up dialogue here. One because we're actually writing a narrative this week, but still thinking about the structure of our story and how everything kind of fits together nicely. We're thinking of dialogue within a narrative now, which is a little bit different. Just make sure you get those inverted commas. It's clear who is talking. "I want to go to the shop," he said out loud. And then what's quite nice about that sentence there, "I wanted to go to the shop," Barney said out loud. You can actually have his speech carry on because they have a special on lollies today. That just splits up dialogue quite nicely. So you can have the start of a sentence written in inverted commas with a little comma as well, just to show that the sentence hasn't finished. It explains who's still talking, and then it continues the sentence. So you'll be using dialogue in your writing of your narrative today. That's how you got to do it. Really practice with this. The inverted commas, the speech marks are really fun to use, and it's a great skill to have and really practice in your writing. So do it, and do it good. So your challenge for today is to write your flashback up, explaining what has happened. So how did we get to this point? Again, for us in our story, it was Chris Columbus, and he'd written a letter to Louis Jimenez and Solomon Clegg, sending them on this fanciful journey of trying to find El Dorado, when Chris Columbus really knew that it was a myth, it wasn't a real story. So for paragraph 1, I'd recommend that actually here, this is where you use your short sentences. When did it happen? Who was there? Where were they? And why were they there? He stepped out of the shadows. He turned. He saw them in the distance. They gathered together. That could be a good start to paragraph 1. Keeps a lot of mystery as well. Doesn't tell us exactly who was there or who's stepping out of the shadows. Paragraph 2. So this is where you can have your speech. This is where our Chris Columbus, our historical figure, in his flashback could say, we need to trick Louis Jimenez and Solomon Clegg. They're getting too big for their boots. Yes, I agree, says the chieftain. They're coming too close to our gold. We need to trick them into believing that it's all gone and it's all a myth. That would explain the story really well in paragraph 2. Paragraph 3, what's revealed? Again, our Chris Columbus could then reveal, I shall write a letter, and it will trick those two cheeky chappies no end. I can tell you that for free. So you can do that through speech, or you can do that through description, explaining what the characters are doing and how they're interacting and how they're talking. And that can be your paragraph 3 then. Don't forget to get a nice variety of your sentence types. You don't have to use them all, that's fine. Just if one jumps out at you, try and use it. It'll really help your writing, and also it'll make your filming much clearer as well. And also really think about how your story suits this graph, again what we looked at yesterday. If you want to, you can even copy this graph out and just write the different parts of your plot. But overall, this is what happens. We want something bad to happen here right before the very climax, the exciting end to our story. And that's it. Send in your work to us, info@litfilmfest.com, on email, @litfilmfest on Twitter, or the Lit Film Fest classrooms, which we have to sing. You have to sing it on pain of death. And here is some fantastic work from some of our biggest Lit Film Fest classroom fans. Check it out. First up, we got great work from Edward. I love this script. Check out this sentence. After an hour's more trekking, they finally reached the base of the craggy mountainside. What a great description. Love that. The sun, which was beating down on them, became brighter and brighter. Can't wait to see that script in action. Also, look at that. Vlampumpernickel. What a great word. Crazy. Also, thanks to Daisy for sending in your great work on the stage by the looks. Look at that. The Lit Film Fest stage. Been practicing her if-then sentences. Also her diary work. And her scene writing, sending in all of her... You've been such a long-standing member of the Lit Film Fest crew. Wow, well done. It's great to see your work on the stage where it belongs, Daisy. Also joining in is M, or M-E. I'm not sure how you say your name. You have to tell me, M. Oh, M-E. How do you say your name? Your writing well deserves being on the stage as well. Love this sentence here. After a while, I was walking to the lake. I heard the birds tweeting all around me. I could hear the wind swifting, making a nice breeze. I heard the blue, crystal clear water swishing against the rocks around the lake. Ooh, I'm there. Fantastic. We have a showcase on the 15th of June where we want to show the best of people's works, and we want to be having interviews and discussions and phone calls with people just before that day to celebrate them and everything that they've done through Lit Film Fest classrooms. So if you want to be involved, send in your work. Let us know on all the social media deets that I've already shared. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Get writing. Bye-bye. Let's get Siri to say goodbye. Siri, say goodbye.
That may be beyond my abilities at the moment.
Goodbye is adios.
Adios!